All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Keeping It Real. It's a wonderful Monday evening, and we are really glad to be back with you. I'm going to tell y'all something. It's like really sometimes hard to come on, because life is presenting so many different things on. Sometimes you don't have any way of controlling, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm thankful that God has given me the strength, the ability, and the right mind today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm glad for today and right now. And I'm glad I got my co-host, my beautiful Curzon. And y'all know who she is, but don't you just go on and tell them who you are. Just go ahead on and
Praise the Lord,
entertain.
everybody. Is just glad to be back. Valerie and Vicky, we're here. We're at it again.
The V's are at it again. Can y'all believe it? We are here and well, and we are talking. And as you can see, we don't have a guest tonight because we're going to start a subject that is going to be something of a major topic that we're going to be talking about. And so we're going to open and go right into it. Now, this subject, and then before I do that, I would like for everybody, if you would and if you can, please share because this is going to be a very interesting topic tonight that Dr. Val and I are going to start. And it is pertinent to so many people. And you'd be surprised how many people is pertinent to. And that is rape. That's what we're talking about tonight, rape. And rape has no boundaries, it has no prejudice, it has no bias, it has no lines to draw. Anybody and everybody is and can be subject to rape. And so we want to dig right in tonight. Um, Rape comes in many forms, right? Would you agree, Dr. Val? I mean, there's the physical rape, but can't you also be raped mentally?
I think that if you look at the act of rape and you compare it, it's something forcibly um, uh, that happens or occurs, and there's a violence in it, and you become victim and prey. And so, yeah, there's a molestation that occurs. There's obscenities that occur, and things that people say and do that are not necessarily in the act of rape. I believe that.
Why do you think that rape happens? Especially, let's start here. There are a lot of people, and we're going to have some guests coming on over the next week or so that's going to talk about themselves being victims of rape and being victims of rape at a young age. Based on your educational experience and knowledge, what would make a person want to rape a child out of all people? Again, we understand it has no bias, no prejudice, and all of that, but a child, like what does a grown person get out of raping a child?
Now that because it's so obnoxious and because it's so repulsive, I don't even know if I want to really understand that. But I do know that rape is a violent act. It is an act of rage. Different, even other things that, even as children, that they do is a display and a demonstration of rage and control. But that is such a vile thing to think. So I don't know if I want to fully understand that, but I will add those components in rage and
Do you think that that the rage comes from people that have had some issues in their childhood? Is it people raping others because they themselves have been raped?
it could be that they themselves have been raped, and it also could be because they're angry. I mean, some are a lot of the things that our young men in society do are because they didn't know their father. They don't know who they are. They're not connected to both sides of the family. There's a identity gap there, and frustrations, no protection. Why didn't you want me? And it may sound like, oh, please, but it's really something that really kind of seeds inside of people. And if you get enough rage in you, you're subject to be pushed to do a lot of things. And it may not be just to take it out on somebody else, but to find some kind of a release from this overwhelming feeling of, pain and rejection and denial and, not having things because you don't have a father, looking at other people and wondering why your life had to go this way, and trying to figure out life on your own with nobody being there for you when they should. So there's a lot of factors, and you almost have to bring the victims on and the victimizers.
And that's where I was going to next. How do you know what do you look for to know whether or not your child or your loved one has been raped? And let's kind of maybe stick with the child at first. How do you know a child? Well, and here is a viewer saying raping a child or the elderly is a very angry act of cruelty stemming from pain. Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to get to. What is that pain? But then also, what do we look for to determine whether or not a person has been raped? So let's go back to the first question. What is that pain? And I think you kind of said it, that pain can come from various areas of life, right?
I think that's demonic. I do. I think that when you, if you can rape a child, that this is just demonic, influence at its, most liberal, in its most liberal environments, where, in other words, where opportunity is just there. It happens in foster care homes. You got an adult watching over children, whatever's in their imagination, whatever is in their nature, whatever is in their DNA, whatever the enemy whispers in their ear at that time. You've got this adult here that's here with these little children. And I don't know if this has been a way of curiosity along through the years, or if it's just opportunity, or maybe they've lived a life where they've seen a lot of things, experimented partially with some things, and here's an opportunity.
Mhm.
Or if it's just someone that just has a sickness for uh, the innocent and those untainted little children that are so far removed from the thoughts and the act that they can find some kind of power or pleasure or something intriguing in that. That's just demonic, sick.
Well, it's demonic, and I agree with that. But then it's still happening, even because if you think about it, to rape a child is demonic, to rape an elderly person is demonic, but to rape at all is demonic. Wouldn't you agree?
If you're
Because
going
the power of
to,
Satan is obviously behind that.
and sometimes I think at certain ages, when you get, now we're speaking of a male that is going to molest someone in their own age group. Maybe they're in adolescence or young adulthood, and they just don't have a functionality in relationships, or they're angry they've been turned down so many times, or they see a way and they have this desire because after you've had the encounter, it can either be the most sickening thing and thought to you, just the very thought can make you nauseous, and even, physically nauseous and reactionary to what happened. But it could be somebody that just simply wants what they want, and they don't go the normal route in relationship. Maybe they don't do good in relationships. Maybe there's someone that's unattractive, or been told they're unattractive, undesirable, and they may be mad because they've been rejected so much, and so now, then this is what I'm going to do. But I have this crave, I have this desire, and I will do this. I don't have any inhibitions.
I think that too, that a lot of times when they're thrown in foster care homes, my court reporting days and just my small uh, research on it, a lot of times somehow the state, and I was hoping to get someone, on to talk from that angle. But somehow it's missed in the state, some of these children that are being bounced from house to
Hey,
house.
hang on one moment. We may get her. Hold on, okay?
Okay. So put your phone on,
Yeah,
put your video on mute. Um, for the viewers that's watching, we were trying to get someone on to discuss this. And so hopefully she's going to do that. But the reason that we're talking about this is because I've come across quite a few people who have been raped in and out of the church. And it's really disheartening to hear it when it comes in the church. When it comes in the church, then it seems to be more, I don't want to say more vicious, but for lack of a better word, I'll just say it's more intensified, it seems, because it is the umbrella of the church. And how can somebody do this in the church to a child? And the bottom line, I think, too, is that a lot of times we have to, as parents. Now, I'm not a parent. I don't have children. My brother has 4 children, and I've been around them all my life, but that still doesn't make me a parent. But I think as a parent, what I have observed and what I've come up, learn and have learned from others, talking to them, observing them, you've got to watch your child and you've got to teach your child who to respond to and who not to respond to. Children are easily given over to response to those that grab their attention, as you know, by candy, by, niceties of life. They are brought in through a mental channel and sometimes through the external channel of toys and things that they see. One of the things that my mom used to tell me growing up is that children should never be sent to the bathroom by themselves. Whenever you send a child to the bathroom by themselves, you don't know who's in that stall with that child. And you don't know, just because it is maybe a setting that you feel safe in, be it your home, be it your church. I mean, be it, a doctor's office. You should never send that child by themselves because it makes the child susceptible. So my mom would always say, if you got to go to the bathroom, you tell me you've got to go to the bathroom. Other than that, I wasn't going to the bathroom by myself. So I think there are many things, Dr. Val, that we could do to help children not be responsive to rape. Shakina says here, they watch children for grooming. And they do. I mean, they're the person out there who is the culprit, they're watching all the time. But where is the parent? Like a lot of times I'm driving down the street and I see kids outside playing by themselves. And I wonder to myself, why is that child out there by themselves?
It can even be a situation where they're not as vulnerable as being alone by themselves. They showed on TV, maybe, I don't know, sometime last year, a child playing in her yard, a fenced yard. But sometimes the fence goes all the way down to
Yes.
the sidewalk.
Yes.
And the child was out there playing in her yard, and the person was walking along slow and watching, and then he reached over and abducted the child.
See, that's what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes you mean the individual abducted the child.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So there are different things that we can do that
You
we
think
have.
they're safe, and they if they want to do this so bad enough, some people just figure out ways to do these kind of things all the time.
Right. And I was saying as you were gone that there is rape in the church. There have been many people that I have met over the years who have been raped in this right in the church. Again, not putting down the church, but saying that when it's in the church, most people feel the church is safe, the doctor's office is safe, the police department is safe. But sometimes where you think is safe is not the safe place.
Can I say something there?
Yeah.
I remember, and this is, good information. When things like that, the Bible says, a sinner shall not stand in the congregation of the righteous. There were stories that I was told by my grandparents, by my older, the mothers and stuff in the church. That's why we need them. But they said that they would come in there and they were prayerful and they would seek God and they loved holiness. And when they came in there, they had brought in such a power and an anointing that sometimes the Shekinah glory would be in the house. I know you've heard about those days. And the anointing would be there so rich that when an individual would walk in, and one man walked in and told his wife, I told you, if you came into this church again, I was going to kill you. And he lifted up his hands to start beating her. And he was locked in that position. The Holy Ghost arrested him. And then there were other times when people walked in to do something I don't know whether it was to rob or to kill or to do something, and suddenly just broke down in repentance, fear, tears, humility, wanted to be saved. I believe that sometimes the church is power. When we go into that realm, the Bible says a sinner shall not stand in the congregation of the righteous, that the anointing and the power of God can be so tangible that the operation of hell cannot do anything.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but it still happens. You know what I
So
mean?
I'm
There are some
saying
things.
that I believe that there is a place that we can be in.
No, 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 no. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I totally agree. But that doesn't eradicate or negate the fact that it has happened. That,
And
as I
it's
said,
happening now. You're seeing all
we're going to
kinds of
bring people on. We're going to be bringing people on in the next week or so that it's happened too. And what I want to get to tonight is
things.
as women, as men, we have to watch ourselves and watch our children. Because as Shakina says here, most children know, and teens, they know their perpetrators. And so my point in saying that is that we find safety in places where there may not really be safety. And that's among your family, because it is so that in a lot of cases, as she said, and due to her, the nature of her job, there's a lot of people that the rape comes from those they know. It's an inside job. So
Mm-hmm.
now, how do we help the viewer tonight? I mean, we hear it on TV all the time, but how do we help them from a spiritual and natural standpoint to hopefully avoid that? We know the power of God is real. And we know that if we, come together on one accord and we call on Jesus, things can happen that will stay the hand of evil. But what about the child that's at the behest or at the hem of the adult? In this case, it could be the pastor, it could be the doctor. These are people that the child feels very comfortable and safe because the child has an ongoing relationship,
Mm-hmm.
that they're seeing this person all the time. So this person brings them into their personal area, telling them, I'm going to give you some candy or I want to show you something. And the child goes. And that's the beginning of, the perpetration. I mean, that's the beginning of the crime, because this is where it has happened, in the church, in the doctor's office, in, wherever, in the classroom. So what do we tell people tonight in order to help them to understand that you cannot ever let your guard down?
One thing that keeps coming to my mind over and over is, remember, there's a cunning craftiness,
Mm-hmm.
luring, drawing away, enticing, and making, feel safe. Oh, this is a safe place. Oh, it's all right. Come over. I just came to pick you up. Or it's okay. Yep, let me show you something. Nope, no worries. And listen, this is just between me and you, okay? Like that. There's so much cunning craftiness that
Right.
educating your children that everybody doesn't have a good intention for you, and everybody that, just be in a place. There's nobody going to be, my husband tells my daughters, there's nobody that is going to love you in a more pure way than your father will. Now, I know some fathers have molested their own daughters. I know of those cases. The daughters have come to me. But I can say that my husband tells my daughters the most pure love that you're going to know and is going to come from your father. And he showed them what pure love looks like, what it acts like, what it sounds like, so that they had examples. And everybody doesn't have a father. Some ladies, they're grown with children and grandchildren, and they're crying because they don't have fathers. So that is one way that I can think of. And then when you think about father figures in the church, what do? Again, you've taught your child to either trust in you, this is her again, trust in you.
All right, she's gone off because one of our guests that was supposed to be on tonight is contacting her. But let me say this. You're right. She's right. We teach children to trust in certain people.
Text me that link.
You've got it in your
The
phone.
words, just the word, the letters, so I can spell it out to
Is
her.
she coming on?
Yes, because the link won't work for her. So if you just type the letters out.
All right. So in any event, you were saying that we teach them. Val,
What was that, dear?
you said we teach them. You were saying that you teach your kids to trust certain people.
Oh yeah, and those things, if you don't know, it may seem like the most unlikely place that you should ever have to worry about, but you will trust your father and those girls, and you'll trust me. And outside of that, you come and talk to me. And I'll tell you what, if they have conversations with you, secret conversations, that's a red light. Come and tell me secretly what they're saying to you.
Well,
Because
I think that that's important what you just said. Two things. The one I want to go to is the latter part of what you said, communication. Parents have to keep open communication with their children nowadays more than ever. In order to know what's happening to your child has to feel a sense of safety in order to come to you, that when they come to you, you're not going to cast them out or point to them as the blame. The child has to feel comfortable in coming and just telling you what happened throughout their day. Sometimes you got to ask the child what has happened to you throughout your day. As this viewer says, homosexuality is often happening to our boys in the church. It is rape. Yes, it is. And I solely believe, as so many writers have written and so many different stories that have come out, it is because it's happening from who you least expect it. So what happens then is that people are looking again at this one and that one as a safe person. And that person may not be the safe person, though it's your uncle, though it's your aunt, though it's your, grandparent or whoever. The bottom line is children have to be taught at home what to look for and what not to respond to. Shakina says here, first talk to your children about their body parts and that none should touch them. Make them feel safe to come to you if it ever happens. That's exactly what I'm talking about. A child has to feel comfortable, because when you allow your children to be taken to the bathroom or taken different places by other people, you have to be careful with that. Again, my mom used to say, you're not going with everybody. You're not going over everybody's house. And I would say, but that's my relative. And she would say, I don't care if it is your relative or not. You're not going. Sometimes it's difficult for the parent to say no, but you have to say no. And sometimes you have where you've got people that are scoping over the audience. If it's a church setting, or if it's a school setting or some kind of setting, that person who is talking at the moment, the leader or the guest, whoever is the focal point, they're looking over the audience and skimming it to see who might be susceptible. And this is why it's important to know them that labor among you. Now, we're going to have someone coming on the show who's going to talk about that. The grooming part, grooming is very common. Yes, to this viewer, thank you. It happens when and where you least expect it. That's my whole point. And this is why we cannot get comfortable even in our everyday settings. Again, it's happening in families. I was going to say that we're going to bring hopefully someone on who happened to this happened to, which is rape, at a very young age by the pastor. The pastor groomed them. The pastor was always nice to them. The pastor was always passing gifts to them. The pastor was always praying for them. The pastor was always treating them. Well, if you see that your child or an individual is getting a lot more attention, maybe than the next person, maybe that's cause for concern. Maybe it's not. But you certainly, if you're in that situation, you got to take note. Because I remember when I was coming up in court reporting, and I began to attend quite a few different legal functions, and you had men and women there of the elite class. I mean, they were rich and they were intelligent. They had multiple degrees. These were business people. But guess what? I'm new coming on the scene, and I'm in what I felt like was a den of lions because they looked at me as fresh meat. And I'm looking at them as y'all ain't gonna get no fresh meat over here because y'all straight up devils. Y'all just straight up demons. But I was able, I believe, to have that type of discernment because of what my parents had instilled in me. So I wasn't impressed by their degrees. I wasn't impressed by their titles and wasn't impressed by what they had accomplished, because when you become impressed with people like that, that gives them the opportunity to groom you very easily and very quickly. So you have to use wisdom, and this is again why it starts in your home. Look, if somebody agree with what I'm saying, just type it in the comments. If you agree or understand, and you're not agreeing just because it's me saying it, but if you understand that this is generally how things work, when people find your space of gullible, they are going to jump in with all fours. And in this particular situation, I didn't show any gullibility. I was not gullible because I had a good home foundation of teaching. Don't do this. Don't like, thank you, viewer. I totally agree, because it is so that people work on your mind. First is what you see, and then what you see relates to your mind. So the sight and the mind come together, and then that curiosity that killed the cat, it sets in. And now the person becomes a victim. So because it was through the spiritual realm of things, now this particular person was raped at the age of 4 by the pastor. And the pastor continued to groom that person and take advantage. Thank you, Shakina, for saying vulnerabilities. Yes, the pastor in this particular situation, and again, not putting pastors down, is going to be the story of one of our future guests. The pastor, unfortunately, continued to groom this child starting at the age of 4.
So I think that a lot of these people that are saying they're pastors are not pastors. I think a lot of them that are
Right.
out there in those roles and those capacities, they may have, the pomp and the circumstance, and they may have the posture, and they may have the charisma, and all of that, and they may be able to gain a following, but ultimately they're not there as in the capacity of a pastor, because the enemy, he's gonna destroy lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. And you got authority, you got clout, you've got influence, you got fleshly desires, you have weaknesses, you know how to manipulate, you know how to be cunning, you know how to gain people's trust. But then this thing that's going on in your flesh is is not in check. It's just not in check. And that conscious, that you may have had at one time, I would like to believe, right now it's just I got power, and this is something that I can do. Don't tell anybody. So there's a lot.
I think that what again, parents have to be on top of it.
Mm.
If you teach from the childhood, if from their childhood, cultivate them to understand that yes, viewer, people are not praying as much as they're praying. I love that. And it is so. And we just cannot get too comfortable. Here's another thing. Don't allow your child to receive gifts from everybody. Because to receive gifts from everybody, we think, oh, that's so sweet. That's so nice. No, you got to learn how to say no. They don't need that at this time. Thank you so much. But they don't need this at this time because once a child receives a gift, the child feels that person is all right if they are receiving the gift from the person right then and there in front of the parent. Is
Now,
that
let me
correct?
say this. One of the individuals that came to me, um, they were a stepchild, and the other children were the child of that marriage. And the stepchild was the one that was being, and happened to be the oldest. And so the stepchild was the one that was being molested over and over and over and over from, early double digits, tweens, and then when the individual turned to the next female under them, that's when they brought it out. So I don't know if there was some um, a sense of being scorned or jealousy or protection or a combination of all three. Okay, because this has been happening between me and you. And now, I'm being pushed aside. Of course, you push my mom aside for you because mom is upstairs, she's pregnant. And then now you've been doing this to me all this time. And then, now you're going to turn to, okay, so I'm in line, I'm rejected, I'm behind, just like my mom. Now I'm in that category. And so I don't know if that was a part of the anxiety that pushed them to just go ahead and just go it and make the statements. But then they were coming into age of adulthood, into like 19. But this had been happening for maybe 8 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there are so many factors that we can't possibly go
But
into.
that's just something that we want to put out there because there
Yeah.
may be somebody in
Oh,
that
yeah.
very,
Yeah,
very situation.
definitely. Definitely. I want to put out some things concerning the safety net of people and areas in our in our families, in our church, in our doctors. I looked up real quickly because I wanted to know. Listen to this. A range of child sexual abuse prevalence rates has been derived from these studies. These studies suggest that children, the sexual abuse prevalence rate for girls is 10.7% to 17.4%, and the rate for boys is 3.8% to 4.6%. These studies suggest an overall full childhood sexual abuse prevalence rate of 7.5 to 11.7%. Now, to some people, that may not sound like a lot, but that's a lot. That's a lot. And then there's another study that says more than 90% of abusers are people children know, love, and trust. 30 to 40% of victims are abused by a family member. 50% are abused by someone outside of the family whom they know and trust. Evidence that a child has been sexually abused is not always obvious, and many children do not report that they have been abused. They're not going to report it because of, like you said earlier, and we've been saying, the familiarity.
Well,
This is,
not only that, but there's guilt
well,
and
yeah,
there's
there's
fear.
guilt. But
Yes.
how about this? How about the child don't know nothing? That was
But
the first.
the ones that I have, some of them that I've talked
Okay.
to, I said, I knew this wasn't right. I knew this wasn't right. But the body developed a craving for,
The body develop. Do
and
you
so
all
then
hear that?
there's, and so then now there's the
Yes.
guilt that it happened first time you didn't say anything, the second time, and now this has been going on for years. Why didn't you say anything? So there's guilt and there's reason that they're holding it in.
Yes, that's powerful what you said, that, this guilt, and that they have derived a desire for it now. Because I did hear someone that we all know, won't say the name right now, but this particular person said exactly that they had never been introduced to any kind of sexual activity. But as a child at a very young age, this was introduced to them through rape. And because they didn't know any better, they thought this is the way it's supposed to be. And it was a family member. We've also heard Oprah talk about this same type of experience. The point being, again, it's mostly going to be somebody on the inside than it is on the outside. And the person on the inside is going to be very loving, very attentive, very giving, very warm, because they want that child to be protected. So would you agree that as often as a parent can on a weekly basis, however many times a week, do you agree that the parent should pull the child aside and say, hey, how was your day today? Did anything unusual happen? Did you run into anybody? Did somebody come in the bathroom with you today? My mother used to flat out say, did anybody touch you anywhere today? What would you say about that, Dr. Val?
Some of them are beaten. Some of them, it starts off with beatings. I mean,
No, wait, before you do that, I'm asking you a question.
no, this is definitely connected. I have to put this connection right exactly at this pivotal point.
Okay.
That they were just beaten. I mean, it started off with beating. I don't mean, a belt. I mean, knocked down on the floor. I mean, kicked and all kinds of things. And the mother watched and cried. And the child was being brought to a place where you will not subject, you will not tell, you will not resist. They were being mentally, and instead of this whole grooming thing, they were being mentally deduced to this is what's going to happen. And that is so brutal. So even if it's not just that they touch you, they say something nice, some are scared because the polar opposite is the way that they were thrown into these situations. It's
But my question, but that respectfully, that's another side, and that's a good one. That's a good point to make. But my question was not that. My question to you was, do you agree that parents should ask their children about their day on a
so my
daily basis,
answer,
weekly basis?
yeah. So my answer is that's going to be even if you do that, that's going to be subpar to getting an answer from a child that is in terror.
Right. But they should do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? Because you're sending your child out into into exposure of school, of all kinds of people. So you wouldn't ask your child, how was your day?
So I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm saying it's so much deeper than that. It's beyond.
It is. It
Yeah. I
is.
mean, we've been talking about that part of it, but I think it's so much deeper. It's so much. They're living in horror. It's so evil now. It is so vicious. I mean, scared to move.
And you're right. What you're saying, and Shakina's right. Communicate.
I
She
mean, you're
says
right,
communicate.
and Shakina's
Period.
right because she's saying it, but I'm just saying it's so much deeper.
But we understand that.
Okay,
What
but
I'm
don't try to
trying to
get me to say what you're saying. I'm just saying,
No, no,
y'all.
no, no, no. It's not
You
about
say
what I'm
what you're
saying.
I'm
No, no,
saying
no. It's just a question. We know it's deeper. The question is not about is it deeper or is it not deeper. The
so
question
here's
is
the thing.
really about
So
communication.
here's the answer directly. They may not communicate it.
We understand that. In
Even
the
if you
world we
ask
live
them,
in,
they may not. Do you see what I'm saying? So
no,
you're
we
saying
understand
ask.
that.
Okay, so you may be saying ask them, which is like I said, my husband, the way he approached the girls and the way he talked to them. But boys are being molested too, and that's a big issue. But they may not say a word. If you can ask them, and they may say everything's all right. And I find, matter of fact, I spoke to somebody today, and they said, well, they were asked, were they treating you good over there? And they said, well, I was a child and I didn't know any better, so I said, yeah. So the answers may come. Asking is not the end all be all. It's a way for some cases may be resolved. But
And,
some are
and I
not going
respect
to
that.
say anything. Yeah.
I like the way this viewer put it. In the world we live in, parents should ask, but they should watch their children's behavior. And that's exactly right. I agree with that. Communicate. I agree with that. Families don't communicate anymore due to technology. That's exactly right. Watch any changes in their behaviors. That's, you got to communicate and you got to watch. Even the
So
Bible
that's the
tells
part
you
that's
to
going to
watch
help.
as well as pray. The
Yeah,
Bible
so
tells you
that's
that.
so that's the part that's going to help the one that's not going to say it because they've been, I mean, physically just brutally beaten like a man, and they may not say it. So now the communication will be nonverbal communication where you're picking up clues, you're looking at things. How deeply are they going within themselves? How is their esteem? Because talking, just communicating is always good. But if that's not working, then you have to know that that may not be the case. They still may be getting abused. So this person said, they said, I didn't know anything better than to say, yeah. She said, but they weren't. And it's sad, it's just, I hate that it's that bad. I just hate that I just hate it. It hurts me. But I'm learning more every day. Even today, I'm learning from older and younger. But this is, my God, we were sheltered, and I used to get mad because I couldn't go places, and my parents were strict, and we couldn't do things, and we were sheltered, we were protected from a lot. But then there's some on the other side.
When you look up how to deal with children of rape, it does come up these last few comments. And we know in this day and age that we live in, uh, the communication aspect is not going to always be the way in, but consistency sometimes is your best friend. And that's what I've learned in my experience on the side of business with, as I said, court reporting, and here of recent, not concerning rape directly, but consistency in communicating. If you continue to communicate with a person on something, eventually there might be a breakthrough. So
Yeah.
what a person has to have is a couple of different ways or more to trying to open that door inside that person to make them feel safe. Because if the person was able to open the door to the culprit, they're able to open the door to the one who has their best interest in heart. You just have to pray for direction on that. One child may not communicate, but another child may. One child may not communicate or do nothing, but then one day a breakthrough may come because everybody has a cutoff point. Everybody. Everybody has a cutoff point. That cutoff point could be years and years down the road. This particular one individual I'm speaking about, their cutoff point, the starting point was age 4. But Dr. Val, the cutoff point was when they were in the double digits. Because now I'm old enough to have the confidence enough that that's not who I am. So I'm going to now expose.
Mm-hmm.
My takeaway, hopefully, tonight for this, and hopefully to you all, is if you know somebody in this situation, I would hope that you would continue being prayerful and continue, trying to communicate the things that you've heard, here the viewers are saying, and Dr. Val and myself are saying, try to continue to communicate. And definitely, by all means, watch, because probably in this society today, watching is probably greater than communicating, because people don't communicate. But then if the environment is a communicative environment, if you are training that child from childhood, then you might have a different outcome.
So with those that in both cases, whether they were threatened or whether they're afraid or And you hear a lot about that, people that have been tortured and they say, I'll kill your mother and I'll
Right,
go
right,
kill. So then they may not talk. They may not.
right. For fear.
But but when you get to the place, or if there is a way, or if you have developed a place where, listen, you can talk to me about anything, no
Yes.
shame, no fear, and listen, we will figure this out. There is a way out of it, and always know that there is a way out of it. And so, in cases like that, when they get broken enough and they can't take it anymore, it's like either I can continue to hurt with this going on, or I can suffer what possibly would happen if I do something to stop it.
Mhm.
And that's a point that they'll come to. But you've made yourself not only one that wants to know and cares and listens, but listen, you can trust me and I will keep this. And I promise you, we will figure this out. I guarantee you this is going to work out in your favor. Just, put that out there. When they trust and they feel the confidence, a lot of times the wall will come down or they'll break down or they'll just begin to speak out and just begin to say things. So there's
Yeah.
ways to get to them.
And I think too, as I was saying before, um, cultivate, you know, cultivate and watch those children that have been bounced from place to place. Watch children whose parents are not around, because sometimes, like you said earlier, there's anger there. So sometimes angry children will introduce innocent children to this type of behavior as well. That's why it's always good to check on your children to see who they're playing with. You never should have kids over, or children. Some people don't, forgive me.
That is so true.
Yeah,
That is so
you don't
true.
want to always have children over, with friends and family and strangers, and you don't never check and see what they're doing. You got to go and see what they're doing. You can't leave
They
them
do.
hours and hours and hours alone, because children are very curious, right?
And they have had some exposure, possibly. You don't know what the
Yeah,
secrets are that they're coming from. So,
right. Watch what they look at, what they're watching on television.
yes.
Be careful of, your children being on Facebook, social media, not just Facebook, but all social media, TikTok. What are they watching? Now you can put security apps in place so that your children can't get to certain pages. You can have certain notifications on
Mhm.
your phone. My niece was very she was an avid security guard over her children. And somewhat still is today. And so is my husband, to a degree, from the standpoint he wants to know that his children are safe. She wants to know that her children are safe. This is the day, you all, that technology can be your friend in that way. Technology can be the enemy, but it also can be the friend. So we, as parents and adults, we have to be able to catch these things and be on guard about it. The final thing I think I'll say, Dr. Val, and then I want you to go ahead and say as well whatever your heart desires. But that is, we have to be careful also, in my humble opinion, y'all. Now, listen, I think is wonderful, but sometimes too many pictures are shared of your children. And so now, unfortunately, you got a lot of enemies on the other side of that keyboard. And, if your children are of age that they're able to see what people are saying in the comments, they might respond. You just don't know. So you have to be very, very careful on all fronts, because the Bible says the whole world lieth in wickedness. And trust when I tell you, there is wickedness everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Don't trust nobody with your children. You got to let your children know the one they can trust is you. Go ahead, Dr. Val, as we get ready to close.
I like the thoughts that you're getting about watching the children, that even the ones that come over, you can't leave them alone by themselves. My oldest daughter is very much, I just laugh at her because she is in control. And so, how we have the den in the back. And so um, uh, one of um, the children brought somebody with them, and she would just bust in the room, like, what's this door closed for? Leave the door open. What y'all talking about? What you looking at on
Exactly.
TV? Because that person may be influencing them. Turn this on. Watch this program. Let me show you this. Here, let me show you this on my phone. And all those little things stir up hormones, oxytocin, activity,
Yes.
secrets,
Yes.
sneakiness. So you got to really know those things too. So
Yes.
it's like, okay, hold on, who raised you? And you're not going to say that to them, but you're going to take note. So I knew that there were some times when I would meet people at school, and then they lived around the corner, so come on over. And then my father was like, no, no, I don't want you around them. He said, you're not better than them. He said, but you're not like them. They're not like you.
That's exactly right. You
And
got
he
to
would
help your
not,
children. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, he wouldn't let them come on. He told me, not, no, that's not the kind of friend you want to be with. Because he knew
Parents got
that,
to help you choose your friends sometimes.
absolutely. And he was right.
Yeah.
Oh, he was right.
I
My
mean,
mother,
listen, even as adults, we have to be careful who we let come into our friendship.
you're
My
right.
mom used to say, keep people at a 10-foot pole because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. This is why you have to be careful running over everybody's house hither and
That's
thither.
right. That's
You
right.
can't, you got to be careful going all these different places. Know
That's
your surroundings and know something about the people that you are about to deal with.
And even another thing, Pastor Vicky, is that, even people that you have a lot in common with, and you know that their desires are the
Yes.
same as yours, and
Yes.
then you listen to them talk, and they continue to talk, and then, after a while, they feel, because you want people to feel trust, comfortable, because as a clinician, I want to, listen and
Right.
be a sounding board, let them
Right.
unload some things. But I found out people can pour vitriol into you.
Oh
They
my
can pour
God. Yes.
poison into you. You sitting there listening with all good intentions, and you're
Uh-huh.
grieving and cringing, and
Yes.
it's awful. So it goes on beyond adolescence. It's just that their brain is not fully formed, and they're going to be even more vulnerable because of that. But people can just kill, your level of, zeal,
Yes.
level of affection, for certain things and lifestyle, and they can just kill it, and they can just drown it with all kind, and those thoughts will stay with you, and it's like, you know what, you just ruined my whole day without hitting me. I wish you would have just slapped me, and the pain would have went away, because now you done put all of this, and I got to go and pray it all off you.
Well, here's the other thing, and I know I keep saying we're getting ready to go, but here's the other thing that came to me as well. And again, you all, I'm speaking from not being raped, but speaking from what I've learned in my lifetime and from research as well as from my job in court reporting. And that is sometimes the person that's asking too many questions, you need to watch. Sometimes the person that don't ask enough questions, you need to watch.
Mhm.
Sometimes the person that's giving too much and going overboard to try to convince that they're safe, that's the person that's not safe. So in all things, you got to try to figure out the balance. You got to weigh the options at the moment. You got to think things out. You got to not be so apt to let your child be brought into the graces of people, and don't push the child, because sometimes parents push kids into other people, like, oh, this is the doctor, baby, doctors, you can trust them, or this is the police, the police you can trust, or this is the pastor, the pastor. No, you've got to make sure that you don't use that child as a unfortunate peon, for lack of a better word, and push them. Yes, viewer, put no confidence in the flesh. That's it. Put no confidence in the flesh, because everybody nowadays, they are just turning tricks. I mean, everybody got a trick. Everybody got a way in. Just listen to the news about how they're taking advantage of the seniors on the telephone. What do you do with your child on the phone? You don't give your child a phone and just leave them to themselves. No, you got to block calls. You got to look at calls that have recently come in. There's just so much that we can do to help prevent rape in your family. Thank God it's never happened to me. But tonight, I hope that we have given you all something to chew on. No, I'm not an expert. Dr. Val, she has her education in it. I don't have education in it, but what I have is just knowledge, just from experience and my own personal research. And some things are common sense, y'all. God gave us 5 senses. Use 10, double them up, use 10. And know that if your good sense tells you something, probably something is to it. Go ahead, Dr. Val, last words.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. Hopefully it'll be okay. It doesn't mean that people won't try, So and there have been attempts. I mean, I would have been overthrown. But somehow by the power of God, the individual that was at one point trying to overthrow me was totally disabled and stunned.
Mm.
God intervenes.
Yes,
God
he does.
intervenes.
Yes, he does.
So you are not, if you got the Lord, and you have been protected and preserved, believe it works. But I am telling you, the person, I was not humanly available or strength, but God overthrew, and the person was totally stunned. And I still rejoice to this day.
Amen. Wonderful. You are a survivor. And God bless each and every one of you. To the viewer that said, you are a survivor, God bless you. I'm glad you are a survivor. And if you feel that you want to come on this show and share your story, anybody viewing, please again share. And if you want to come on and be someone that shares in this conversation, we welcome you. All you've got to do is reach out to me on Facebook Messenger and let me know that you would like to be a part of the show. If you want to come on and you want to exercise anonymity, that's possible too, because we just put you in the dark. We'll just hear your voice, but we won't know who you are, because all we want to do is help others. This show is about delving into some topics that people may not talk about. And the reason we bring up the church is because we are in church. We are children of God. We are saints. And we want you to know that we want to talk about these subjects, not to put the church down, but we represent the fact that she just said, God is able to intervene. God is able to protect, and he does intervene, and he does protect, and he is the keeper, and he is the way maker, and he is the sustainer and the preserver. And so remember that on this show, we are all about helping you the right way. God bless you. We thank you for each and every one of your comments, and may the Lord bless you real good. Join us next week, as hopefully our guests will be on, and we will continue this subject about rape. Amen. God bless.
All right. God bless everybody.